The lady just goes, oh, from where I'm from,
If you have sold your soul at any point,
promoting like being a child murderer.
you don't even look my way unless you need something.
They are shutting down the podcast.
You are listening to the number one podcast in the world, at least according to two people. Welcome to Absolutely Relative with Sam and Joel.
A lady and her son came into a cafe.
Okay.
And this was back when I was in Melbourne. So ordered a extra hot latte. Thankfully, I wasn't actually on the job.
What's an extra hot latte?
I will explain. So that's a key part of the story. Point being, thankfully I wasn't working that day, but the barista who was on the job was a really good friend of mine, and so were like the staff that in this cafe. So anyway, she orders an extra hot latte,
Which is already a hilarious term.
It's a funny term. But
Yeah.
It's funny because my friend goes up to her and says like, we actually recommend milk to be steamed at this particular level because that's how generally how we do it, because we find milk tastes the best at this temperature.
Fair enough.
But if you like it hotter, we're able to do it a little bit hotter for you. Would you like that? She replies yes. So he goes off and makes the coffee.
Yeah.
Makes it hotter than the usual. I trust him, right? Like I don't think he would have not done what this person asked for.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings the coffee over. The lady drinks it and complains, say it's not hot enough.
Right. Okay. So it's not hot enough.
It's not hot enough. So he goes back. He apologizes for it, and then he says, "Can I remake your drink for you?" And she says, "Yes, of course. Like this isn't what I paid for." So, in a not completely pleasant way, let's put it nice. Nicely.
What did she do though? You just threw the cup on him?
No. So she doesn't like throw the cup on him or anything, but you could tell that she was like being pretty snarky about it.
So she was being a Karen.
Ish.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, oh, who's your manager, this and that.
Yeah.
But it was like, you could tell that she was like, she looked at him in a way that's like, you don't know how to do your job.
Yeah.
If that
Like you
makes sense.
call this hot?
Yeah. So she looks like this guy like he's a complete idiot.
Yeah.
But he's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, guy goes back, remakes the drink again, does it even hotter. And she tastes it. And it tastes bad to her. This was already after the fact that the guy has explained that our coffees don't tend to go well with really hot milk, because if you heat milk up to a particular temperature, it just breaks down. Like it tastes bad.
Of course.
So he just explains that again, like, look, I'm sorry that it tastes bad, that you don't like it, but when milk is heated up this way. And the lady just goes, oh, from where I'm from, when I order an extra hot latte, it's always good. It's you that doesn't know how to do your job.
Wow.
So guy just takes it. Like, obviously, it's your job if you've ever worked in the food industry as a front of house person, you just take it on the chin, you apologize, and you kind of like, he again offered to remake the drink again.
The third time. This is the third drink.
And
Okay.
she said she was, no, like you don't know how to make coffee, essentially. She didn't use those, I'm paraphrasing,
Of course.
but that was essentially the sentiment. And by the way, the son is not like a young kid, by the way. He's like a grown-ass man as well, like probably in his mid-20s, I want to say. And just has the same attitude. So you do get these people. And yeah, you can really only take it in that way. And it's also probably one of the reasons why I'm not working front of house anymore, because it's not really a nice thing to deal with people, really. In that sense. So
I think people are great for the most part.
for the most part, like it's just a very small minority of really inconsiderate people. Maybe she had a bad day. Maybe
Could be.
could be plenty of reasons. So I don't want to completely say like, oh, she's a horrible person for doing that.
Yeah.
What she did was horrible, but
Yeah.
like doesn't mean that when you do one particular thing that
That's your entire
that's your
character.
entire character. So
Right. You're not judged based on a few events
for sure.
that have happened.
So maybe it was just a bad day, a bad timing, this and that, and so be it. But these are the kind of things that you deal with. And I'm pretty sure in whatever industry that you're in, be it like yourself in the creative industry, like you will have clients who just will be a complete ass about anything that you do.
You just have to take it on the
You just have to take it on the chin. Like it literally is what it is.
I want to ask if you have sold your soul at any point for like a customer's request, or they're like, I so don't want to do this. This goes against everything I stand for, but I got to do it.
Yeah, I have. And it's not like a fairly uncommon thing either, especially in the industry that I'm in. Because what people pay for, they're paying for. Like, it might not suit my taste. And within the coffee industry, probably the majority consensus would not be to drink coffee in this particular way. But if someone wants to do it, it's really on them. Because after you're done brewing, it's out of your hands.
Yeah.
You could taste a little bit of it just to see whether you've done a good job at it. And if you have, once you give it to the customer, they could pour freaking tap water in the coffee for all I care. Like, they could do that.
Because it's theirs now.
It's theirs now. Like, it's no longer under my jurisdiction. Yeah. If I'm doing a particular showcase, for example, then maybe it's up to me because I'm serving a very, very particular thing.
Yeah, and then you have to taste it the way I meant for you to taste it. Because maybe that has some sort of added value.
Yeah.
Particular sort of
you trust me at that point in time as the person who's curating your experience.
Correct. So in that sense, because I've seen you, I think this was one time where you were serving me a coffee, but this happens to be a situation where I paid for because usually you just give me free coffee because I'm a friend and friends drink for free.
Let's not get into how much free coffee you've had.
I've had a lot of free coffee, but this was one of those rare occasions where I paid for my coffee because you were guest brewing for another. I've seen instances where you've actually like, hey, that wasn't a very good brew. I'm gonna brew you another one. I was like, okay, because in reality, like, I'm pretty sure if you've given it to me, I'm not sure if I would have been able to tell of some of the more delicate sort of changes that I might have felt, but I understand that it's also a part of the amount of care you take when it comes to like your own work and the stuff that you put out. It's like you want it to be satisfactory to your level before you even serve it to someone else, you know?
Yep.
Which makes sense to me. Like I think that's like a noble and like basic thing to do, to be honest. So you don't want to give out a product that's...
I think for like, look, if you are into the specialty coffee scene, and for me, that's probably one of the key tells whether I can trust a barista or not. Because if I see a barista do that, I am like 80% sure whatever he's going to put out is going to be pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, just the fact that he cares enough to like throw out crap that he thinks is bad.
Because those things are not cheap.
No. No.
He probably threw out a few dollars. Maybe more than a few dollars.
Yeah. So, look, it's not just the bean itself, because the water that you use, the paper that you... Look, I could get into all the different little bits of equipment that...
Every darn thing matters.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure even like timing matters.
Yep.
Like seconds make a difference. Mm-hmm. Do microseconds make a difference?
Probably not for all of us. I think if you go to the competition level, maybe. But for where we are, I mean, look, I do train competition baristas and we do train for competitions as well. But I think for me, the real gauge is probably in like, at our level of competing at least, the minimum window of like how much off, by how many seconds that we typically start to think that it's a red flag is a 10-second difference of our target. So if anything's more or less than the 10 seconds that we wanted it to land, and for example, if I wanted this brew to finish at 2:30, but if it's like 2:45, it's a red flag.
Okay, so that is enough to kick something off of the...
That's the standard for competition level. For if you're just running a cafe for the general public, that might be a bigger window. Obviously, I don't know everyone's
of course
standard practice.
You wouldn't be able to tell
their cafes, but that is at least our kind of like standards by which we practice our brews at least.
I think that's fair. Because going back to the conversation about like trying to succumb to the requirements and the tastes that people have, that was another kind of dilemma I was having. And I think we've talked about this, like getting into acting and all, like doing things as an actor that perhaps do not completely align with my actual values or my actual beliefs or things that I would do in that sense. So maybe I'm playing a jerk and
You're not a jerk.
I hope that I'm not a jerk. So, I mean, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. But you know that I'm a jerk sometimes. But yeah, like there's this part of me that's like, if I perform a role in a movie or if I'm performing a role in any sort of play, whatever, I'm acting as someone who I am not, right?
You're playing a character.
I'm playing a character. So this character does not necessarily have to align completely with who I am as a person. But also there's that element of like,
Am I doing a bad thing?
Am I doing a bad thing? Like, say for example, if a character's being a jerk and I'm like, I don't believe in this. Like, I don't say a character's like talking down to a child in the movie or in the play or whatever. But I'm like, I like children. I love children. I like, I don't want to be this kind of guy, but you got to do it. And everyone else who watches that movie, because maybe I did such an amazing job at
thinks that you are, the whole like, everyone hates an actor for the character they played and not the person themselves. Yeah.
It's like, do I now receive the hate? I'm not so worried about people that I don't care about and like the general public. Like, sure, they watch it, they get entertained, and then bye-bye, you know? Like, I'm just another person on the screen for them. But I'm more, like, concerned about the people closest to me, the people who've known me for all this while.
They say that you probably shouldn't play this kind of character because you've got your own set of values to pull up.
I think it's also... let me correct myself, because I don't think it's even the people closest to me.
But close enough to be a voice?
Yeah. Like, close enough to be like, hey,
I saw this.
I didn't feel too good about what you did over there.
And they've got an into like that conversation, right?
Yeah, they've gotten into that conversation, but they don't really like
know me.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where like I am having a little bit of a dilemma, and I think I've discussed this with you in the past. But I think that conversation is valuable enough to be had on record. Because how would you go about that? Because there's two ways, right? To me, in my head, there's two ways. One way is just I don't care about it. Doesn't matter what or where or who thinks what when I'm on screen. I am acting. I'm an actor, and therefore I do not have to believe in the things that I'm acting out, and I get paid for what I do, and that is an honest work. You do that and you leave. That applies to comedy as well. Like, we're not all speaking truth on stage. Like, yes, there is some essence of like, it comes from a real incident or some inspiration somewhere, but it didn't happen exactly the way it played out. No, like, comics do lie, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm giving away trade secrets over here, but that's true.
I mean, if you don't know that, well, spoilers, but
every comic lies. Things didn't happen exactly.
Maybe lying is a bit strong.
What would you say?
Just have embellished the truth.
Embellished. Yeah. Maybe that's a better word.
In a couple ways in their stories, right? Yeah. Like, my take on the acting thing that you mentioned is like, I'm pretty sure there's probably like two sets of lines. One, that you wouldn't mind playing a character that does things that might not align with your values. And then there's another line where this is so far off that not even if a character was playing it that I would do it. For example, like if you were to play a character in a video promoting like being a child murderer, for example, like you probably wouldn't do that. I hope.
Like, I probably wouldn't be a child murderer.
Yeah. Like, you wouldn't be part of a message that explicitly promotes child murdering.
Okay, yeah.
You get what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
But you might play a character who maybe is a child murderer, but the point of the entire piece is to, I don't know, hate or like to
like I'm the bad guy.
You are the bad guy.
And the good guys get payback.
Yeah.
And I do not end up getting what I want.
So like the final message is clear in that sense.
Right. So you're saying that if the final message still aligns with said
Your
values,
that you are happy to play a character within those, even though what you might do as that character might not necessarily align with your values in the moment that you are playing or doing that action, if that makes sense.
yeah, but that also goes on to what if now? Because you see, you should also take note that I am a very new actor. I don't get a say in a lot of these things. Like, I know like scripts are written and you get to review them before you enter into a contract, but a lot of these things change on the fly too.
Yeah.
Like,
I think maybe there is also room for establishing boundaries within that industry. For example, like you go into a thing and then suddenly your director asks you to like punch a person on set. Like for real punch. Yeah, like because that's part of the movie now and he wants to take that artistic direction.
Yeah.
And your other actor colleague is not comfortable with that, but your director is asking you to do it. Anyway.
Then that's
then obviously, like that's just crossing a line.
it is not crossing a line if there's like consent on both sides, maybe additional compensation for receiving and giving the punch. Yeah,
So there are ways to make it palatable and ethical.
of course.
But there's also ways where I think it's really up to yourself as a person within that industry to set your own quote unquote boundaries of what you are happy to do. And as viewers or audience members, maybe the real thing here is to be aware that these people are not portraying themselves on stage. They are portraying a character, and the stories that you listen are what they are, stories and sets. And to be aware that this is not, a reflection of who they are in reality. Like you are going to a comedy set to hear a comedy set.
Yeah.
You are not hearing someone's life story. Like you're not going there to hear this person tell you their dirty laundry on stage. Of course. That's not what's happening.
Yeah.
When you see a movie, when you see a work of like fiction or even non-fiction, like people are portraying characters. Like, and if you're not aware of that, then because for example, if I were to relate this for my own industry, if I was a barista for a cafe and they've got a particular way of doing things, it might not be the way I prepare my coffee drinks, but I still will follow that. And then whoever is asking me, oh, why did I do this way? Even if I know that, you don't typically, if you don't typically brew coffee this way, like, why are you still doing it? Because I'm part of a team, I'm part of a larger organization or institution or a larger thing. Like, I am not running the show here.
Yeah.
Like, if I were running the show, I own a cafe and I get to do whatever the hell I want to.
Of course.
Like, that's just not how the world works. Exactly. So if people can't get around that or figure that out, then it's not really on you, the actor, or me, the barista. It's really more on them not understanding the situation that they're in.
Yeah. Because you think this is reality.
Yeah.
And you think that this is who I am.
And if you place that before having a conversation with the person that you have an issue with, it's your fault for not trying to establish what is real and what isn't first. So,
because my whole sitch is if I switch it up and be like, hey, would you not watch another actor who did the exact same thing as I did?
I think, maybe this comes to the point that I made when we had this conversation previously, that if you were to hold these values in earnest, you would probably draw your lines differently. And that was the argument that I made of why people might have an issue with you, or with me, or with anyone. That their perception of what embodying a value means that you draw your boundaries differently than what you actually do as a person. So that, I think, becomes a problem, right? Like, they think that if you want to be a good person and you hold these particular values, you've got to do things in a very particular way. Like, they've got a better understanding about having a particular moral identity than you do. And I think, to me, that's more so not respecting the other person's ability to adjudicate for themselves what kind of moral person they like to be.
And I think those lines are drawn differently for everyone.
For sure.
And I think they also change on a day-to-day basis. I don't think you believe the same things now that you believe in the past.
Nope.
And because those belief systems do change, you are allowed to restructure those lines depending on where you are. Yeah, where you are in life and what's comfortable, what's perhaps right or just in
I think for me, the good way to go about this is probably to have a open conversation without judgment about asking, oh, I've seen you've done this. In my head, I'm not so sure why you chose to do this. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to hear from you about why you decided to do this particular thing. Because in my head, if you were this and this, you'd probably do this differently in this way. But again, that's my opinion. I'd like to hear yours.
Yeah.
So if you were to go about in that manner, I think that's fair game. I think that's totally fine. But if you were to go about saying like, oh, you should do this and you should know better, and like, I thought you were this, I thought you were that, that's probably to me not someone I'd like to be associated with.
Yeah, it's more of like, let me
tell you how to live your life, and let me tell you how you are wrong for doing
everything
this.
that you're doing right now.
Exactly.
Is completely wrong. And like, there's no effort made or room created to have conversations about context. What was the decisions under which what were the circumstances under which you made those decisions? And there's nothing of that sort.
And again, for me to play the devil's advocate here, maybe their belief is that you haven't thought through enough. That maybe they're coming at you from a point where I'm trying to give you advice to rethink your decisions or to do this. But if I still find that attitude pretty problematic, because you don't, I guess, give the other person the benefit of the doubt, and you don't give them the intellectual respect that I think most people do deserve. But I think, again, it probably boils down to just having an open conversation with someone. And for you to have an open conversation without, while allowing people to be fully honest about their decisions, you'd have to come from it from a non-judgmental point of view. That's really the only way to do it. And I think, at least for me as a person, I am fairly miffed when someone comes to me and gets that attitude to begin with, trying to talk to me.
Yeah, it's very off-putting, because you know that they have an agenda.
Yeah.
You know what's worse? When they start with the small talk.
Yeah,
they're like, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, shut the...
Dude, I know. Okay, I just sometimes when I see these people, I have to be polite. But in my head, I'm just like, dude, get to the point. I know you're here for something. You don't even look my way unless you need something or you have something in your head that you wanna dump on me right now. So just go for it.
For sure.
But I'm so concerned for your well-being, Sam. I think you should know this. I hate this kind of people.
Yeah, and I think if you know who I am as a person, and you know me for a while now, I just distance myself. There are things that I just leave and don't come back.
Yeah. I wish I could be like that.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, you attach yourself to things so tightly that you become a kind of major part of most of the things that you're a part of.
True.
So when I try not to be that, so that I always have an out.
I'm like a fungus.
Sure.
I just grow onto things, almost difficult to get rid of. That's what makes it difficult to just yank myself out of the situations. You're more like a fungus, but there's a layer of, I don't know where I'm going with this analogy. There's a layer of protective film between you and the thing. So at any moment you can be like, hey, I'm a fungi. I'm going the other way. I want to keep having fun because I'm a fungi.
This is why you're the comic. I'm not.
Of course, my guy. I think what you were getting at earlier is technically our shoot the baby analogy. Which is,
we're going there again.
Yeah. Which is, before you approach a conversation, you shoot your baby. And what that means is to
take a gun, load it, point it at the baby, and shoot it.
Don't shoot it. Oh. That's not what I meant.
Whoa, okay.
Point it at yourself, and then don't shoot it. What I actually meant was you point it at your biases, your your thought processes that would have existed from your upbringing.
So why not call it shoot your biases?
Because, shoot your baby is like, we all have this baby that we've created since we were young. It's like the thing that we hold so dearly to.
But babies are not created when you were young.
Oh yeah, I was the baby that was created when I was.
You have the perfect analogy.
Dude, my analogies are great. As you can see, they're bulletproof, literally. But yeah, what I mean is.
This is why he's the comic.
Yeah. Which arrive at a conversation like this podcast. When we arrive at this conversation, we bring all of our experiences with us, but we're open to being proven otherwise. We're open to being proven wrong because we understand that we're not going to be right all the time. Which goes on to say that whatever we've said in this podcast might be different to what we believe 5 seconds from now. Because anything could happen and anything could change the way we see the world in an instance, right?
I guess.
Yeah. Like, you never know until you've been in those shoes. You can't like for example, like all my friends who've been married and have kids now, they tell me that the way they thought they were going to be as a father or a mother is completely different to how they are now that they are a father or mother. Yeah. So I believe that same thing, like in general as well. Like, I don't think that, yes, of course, we are held responsible for the things we say, for the things we do to some extent, but with the permission to believe otherwise, to change our values, to think differently, regardless. Because tomorrow we might realize other things, might edit the way we believe, edit the way we see things. But that doesn't mean that what we believe right now is completely invalid. It is rooted in some sense of like...
It makes sense for where we are.
Yeah. For right now, it makes sense. This is rational thought. This is what we've given arguments for why we...
From how we've, lived our lives and our experiences and the particular circumstances and contextual information that are there, this is what makes sense for now. And that circumstance and that context is unraveling as we speak, the more experiences that we live.
And the moment the baby needs to be shot, we're already here with the gun.
Right. We're continuing with the analogy.
That was where do you think all of this unfolded from? It's the shoot the baby analogy. The best analogy I have. I'm never going to stop using it. It is perfect, bulletproof, and airtight. You understand, Sam? You understand? All right, guys. Hey, it's been a long episode.
It has been a long episode and probably a lot more serious than our previous one.
You know what? I feel really good about this episode. I feel like this is probably what we wanted to do.
We had to wade through all the crap to get here, but we got here eventually.
We got here eventually. I don't know if you're still listening. I wouldn't listen to this far, but I'm glad if you made it this far, or you just skipped through the end to see if we have any surprises at the end.
Boo!
Surprise! And thank you so
Happy
much.
birthday.
Can you let me close the podcast? You want to close the podcast? Go ahead, Sam.
No.
Fine. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for listening this far. I hope you were entertained. Your thoughts have been provoked, and don't die. Don't die.
Don't take drugs.
Don't do drugs, kids, and don't die. Everyone, like, that's just general life. Like, even if if you're on your deathbed when you listen to this podcast, I don't know, for whatever reason,
don't die.
Just
live a little bit more.
Live a little bit more. Like, if you're like,
and we're back to all the crap.
Yeah, if you're 200 years old,
people are turning off by now.
Listen to this podcast.
They are shutting down the podcast.
All right, everybody.
They're closing down.
See ya. Bye-bye. Take care of yourselves. Until next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, I guess. Okay, bye. Live your life.